Hello and welcome to another episode of Walking Digital Corridors. I am Alex Abbott, otherwise known as the Bearded Sales Guy, and today we are joined by
Jordan Abbott, also known as the Sales Poet or the Weird Al Yankovic of sales.
And
that's a new one.
It's been my tagline for a while. Weird Al Yankovic does the parody, or was famous in the 80s, 90s, I want to say, for parody songs. So I'm piggybacking off his fame.
Yeah, I've noticed it as your tagline, but it's new for being part of your intro.
Yeah, okay.
And joined by Jensen Abbott, BDR at content.ai. Keep it short and sweet.
Keep it short and sweet. So today's topic, well, the title of the podcast today is C-Suite Pursuit, the Salesperson's Odyssey. I thought that was quite a telling title, given that for many of us in sales, the ultimate is to engage the C-suite, yet we find it quite difficult to engage them. And so, why don't we kick things off with a question? You're both in sales. I would say both sort of between 3 to 4 years B2B sales experience, 8 years between you, something like that. So what do you find? So firstly, do you attempt to engage the C-suite in the opportunities that you're running or the accounts that you're working on? And secondly, how successful are you or not?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, as you mentioned, it's the ideal to have a seat at the table with, someone with that power, with that authority, though it is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
So I think taking that targeted account approach, focused account approach, it's a case of building up. So connect with more junior people, perhaps ICs, then upper seniority level, frontline management, upper level directors, upper level VPs. And by that point, hopefully you've had various conversations. You can leverage that insight to start to try and connect with the C-suite, or you've got some intros. But even then, I think that pride is the devil for a salesperson. And even by putting in the work, it's so difficult to get a conversation with the C-suite that it would make more sense, rather than you holding all the threads, leveraging your internal network at the organization to build those relationships with their counterparts. Get your CSO, CRO to start building a relationship with their counterpart, to create that sort of ladder of relationships.
Yeah, ladder of relationships, did you say?
Yeah.
And so you're sort of evaluating always sort of what that pathway to power might be through the relationships that you're developing as you go.
Yeah, exactly. It's so as I'm mapping accounts, one of the things that I'll do after identifying key stakeholders is, in like kids' exercise books, there's often like, a picture and then a list of words, or various pictures and list of words, and you've got to draw the connecting line. It's that sort of exercise. Who can I leverage internally to build that relationship?
It's when I think about this idea of engaging the C-suite, I think no longer should it be, something that we don't do, right? So if I look at some of the conversations that we've been having over the last few weeks, and the research that we've been using on this podcast, we know that when one or two stakeholders are engaged in an opportunity, the close rate is, I think, quote me if I'm wrong here, Jordan, but 8%. And when we put the effort in to engage with 6 or more stakeholders in any given account, the close rate can multiply 4 times to 30-something%. Right? Yet salespeople still remain in the comfort bubble of 1 to 2 stakeholders managing that opportunity. And that when we bring into the picture that 84% of C-suite are using social media to influence purchase decisions, and then bring into account that when we engage C-suite early in the sales cycle, that sales velocity improves 9.2 times. The evidence for me is it's unquestionable. I mean, we can question it, of course, but like all of the evidence is pointing towards the fact that we need to be engaging with more stakeholders than we are today, and increasing the seniority of those stakeholders in which we're engaging with. That's there's no question there. That's what we need to be doing. Yeah, why are we not doing it? I mean, some are, and we'd love to hear from the audience, by the way. Throw in your questions and your experiences, please. There was a great deal of engagement last week, and it was lovely. But why do most not do it?
Well, I've got a question before that.
Mm-hmm.
So you said engage with the C-suite. What are you classing as engaging? Is putting them through a cadence with an email engaging? Is it actually? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trying to help not just myself but also others. That when you say engage, I know a lot of people think, okay, well, I'll do an activity, or I'll do an action, and that's me engaging. But obviously,
it's a good question, because I had yesterday a client, so a Fortune 200 company was talking to me about sort of the difference between digital selling and digital marketing. And marketing thinks that they're engaging with the C-suite early by investing in creating insight. And I don't think that is enough alone to do that. What I'm talking about, or what I'm thinking about in relation to this topic, is, I'll give you an example. Another client, actually. So I'm working with, at a very low level, the CRO is somebody that I found difficult to engage, despite my best efforts through, social selling, engaging in his content, making sure that I'm present where he's present on LinkedIn, looking at which posts he's engaging with. But that wasn't quite getting the level of engagement I wanted. I found that he'd done an interview. That interview was made public on YouTube. So I watched the interview, very insightful, about a deal that he'd done personally in the early days that really sort of changed the direction of the company. I then ran the video through a tool, Cast Magic, transcribed the video, prompted the transcript. What are 2 or 3 questions, executive level questions, that I could ask this person, to get my creative juices going. I then used that intelligence in a direct message on LinkedIn, and lo and behold, he agreed to a meeting. I don't think he would have necessarily agreed to that meeting if I hadn't have built an affinity with him through my behavior on social media. Yeah. So when I came in with that message, which was a very relevant message, referencing what a great interview that he'd done, I don't think that he would have necessarily agreed to a meeting.
Yeah.
But it's that combination of things. I think at that level, when we talk about social selling, we don't often talk about watching a video, transcribing that video, using that as part of your outreach, but it is to me.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to doing the right research, right? I think the two other things that have been brought to mind is the personalization and relevance discussion. What you did there is it's the pinnacle of personalizing a message, right? What I think people, how can I not offend here? I think in sales it's very broad brushstrokes in terms of what personalization could be classified as. First name. We've helped businesses like insert company name. Other heads of sales or CSOs that we speak to. It's not personalization really.
Yeah.
It's tailoring at best. But what you've done is, and look, there's a fine line here because some people can go the other way, and it's like, oh, I saw you were at Starbucks on the last Thursday, on
Kensington Road,
August.
Yeah.
I too like pumpkin spice lattes, and that's the other end of the spectrum. So it is a fine line, and what you've done there is some fantastic research, leveraged a tool to make it efficient for you, pulled out some insight, pulled out some questions that are relevant, that are personalized because you're quoting something that they've said. So it is a fine line.
So to jump in there for where you said you didn't want to offend. Now this is me going back to a conversation I'm having with a couple of close friends and other people that I've met on LinkedIn. And the reason you said you don't want to offend is that because you didn't want to say sometimes it can be being lazy, that they think I've got so much to do. My personalization is going to be first name, last name. I'm going to use the generic message again and I'm going to send that out. And that's good enough.
It was actually more the fact I didn't want to insult marketers, because for marketers, that is personalization.
Yeah.
Right? Because typically they're sending out campaigns at higher quantities and being able to personalize based on first name, based on the information they've got available. That is personalization.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about here is generating a reciprocal engagement, a conversation where you do have to go that step further. And to your point, perhaps it's laziness sometimes. Perhaps it's the fact that SDRs, salespeople, are being tasked to do so much by their organization in a bid to generate more.
Yeah.
That sometimes, it's that efficiency versus efficacy debate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are, from your perspective, what are the best practices of leveraging social media to influence B2B purchase decisions, especially when targeting C-suite executives?
So I've got an opinion, and I think Jensen in the last two and a half weeks has justified the opinion. 29 net new meetings booked with his ICP in 2.5 weeks. And it's by removing that element of pride and being curious and really taking an interest in the individual that you're reaching out to. What do they care about? What, keeps them up at night? What makes them tick? And create a conversation around that, as you did with that CRO.
And actually, to add a point, right, because I'll give an example here on removing the kind of that prize, right, of let's book a meeting. I was in conversation with someone and I had their phone number and I thought, I'm just going to give them a little call, right? Just I understand everyone's busy. And no, it wasn't a cold call. I've spoken to this person multiple times. I know who they are, know them by name, everything like that. I called and actually she forgot to put out of office on her email. So I thought she was working. She called and she was like, hey, look, I'm actually on holiday with my kids. And her kids were screaming in the background. I said, look, I apologize. Had maybe like a 30-second chat. And after that, I actually sent a message saying, hey, I understand you're on holiday with your kids. Have you actually tried doing this activity if you've got a beach near? And she replied back saying, oh, that was awesome. That sort of thing that actually I'm removing that. I understand I've got a 4-year-old daughter. Understand what would I appreciate if someone was to call me while I'm on holiday, and actually what message would I appreciate? And it's not, oh, I understand you're on holiday, so here's a date and time for when you're back. It's actually no, hey, look, understand you're on holiday, have an awesome time, and if you have time, try this. It may add a bit of fun.
Yeah,
that works. You take out that what you want, you put the recipient kind of in that spotlight, and it's about them, not me, right?
it's a great example of doing something that will also just catch someone by surprise and make you stand out to them as someone that actually cares more about them and what they're doing than you.
Yeah.
Most salespeople, I think, struggle, and I hate saying most salespeople. I think I've done it in the past myself, where I'm so caught up in the whirlwind of work. It can often be quite difficult to disengage from that and put yourself in the shoes of the buyer.
Yeah. It's a paradox, is sales, being successful in sales, because we are compensated on how many next steps, whatever that may be, depending on your focus and seniority, whether that is new meetings booked, sales accepted leads, SQOs, closed revenue. It's always going to be there because that's how you're compensated, right? That's your milestone. That's where you want to get to. And I don't think as organizations, and this is a real broad brushstroke statement here, so again, don't want to offend anyone. I don't think sales orgs do a good enough job showing what great looks like for their sales team. The conversations typically around, redefining comp plan, changing pricing, whatever it may be, rather than, okay, what's the value? What's the pain that we're solving? And again, it's real broad brushstroke statement because there are orgs out there that embody it, and it comes from top down and it's celebrated internally. So it's, I'm not talking about everyone, but I think it's the $1 million question. How can you instill those sales behaviors that are really consultative, where you're, as a salesperson, you're the guide to your buyers rather than just trying to sell to them.
And then do you think this is why individual salespeople find it harder, because it tends to be them that have to self-educate to have this consultative approach, because maybe the organization they're working for isn't giving the sales enablement or isn't giving whatever it is from the top down?
Harder to engage with the C-suite?
It's harder to engage with the C-suite, but also harder to have that consultative approach. Because if I'm working in a BDR, SDR, AE role, and I don't, like Jordan said, there's not enough of showing what good or perfect looks like. If you don't have that as a salesperson, you almost have to put your own feelers out. You've got to navigate your own way to have this consultative approach, right? Then the fact in worrying about quote or target or whatever you're compensated on.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the first thing that popped into my mind was the KPIs that an organization could set.
Yeah.
But typically it is based on a lag measure or, a quantity. So make 80 to $100 a day.
Yeah.
Whereas it should be focused on the lead measure, because I think that in itself will start to change the perspective slightly towards being a bit more consultative, being a bit more trying to ensure there's the value exchange there. But it's a much larger topic.
Yeah, I mean, we could take the word salespeople out of this equation and just ask the question about people. How do people engage more effectively with the C-suite using social media, and people of all seniorities? If we think about the value of multi-threading, true multi-threading. We talked about this before, and I know it's a topic close to your heart at the moment, Jordan. This idea of being the quarterback, or the salesperson being the guide both internally as well as externally, managing the sales team, the people on your side, and making sure that they're engaged with the right people within the account that you're selling into. And you might have a range of seniority from somebody that might be on the pre-sales side supporting you on the deal, versus your own C-suite, and coaching your own C-suite how to engage with the C-suite in the account that you're trying to do business with on social media. There's a question here around challenges. What are some challenges that sales teams or vendors face when trying to connect with C-level executives via social media? And how can they overcome some of these obstacles?
I've got a couple on that, actually. I've got a couple, and I'm just going back to when also I first started. So for myself, one big one was I saw their job title, and I would almost belittle myself because of their job title, because they're so high up, and it's like, oh, do I really have a right to try and engage with this person? But actually, once you take that title away, they're a human being who's just trying to do their job within an organization. And if you can add value to the job they're trying to do, why can I not outreach? Why should I kind of not belittle myself, but make myself feel smaller? That's one. A second one, I mean, hard in the fact that I've had it before. My job title, people look at my job title and don't think I'm qualified enough. People don't think I've had the experience. One quote was, and this was when I was working for 2 years. It's, why would I listen to you when you have 2 years experience and I've been in the industry for 30 plus?
Yeah.
That shut me straight up, right? That shut me straight up. I was a bit like, oh, okay.
But it's a really good point, and I think there is truth in that statement. I think the issue there comes back to that pride piece. The salesperson wanting to own it, wanting to share their expertise, experiences, but that salesperson likely has never experienced half what that prospect has.
Yeah.
So that's where, it comes into play. Okay, what internal resources, stakeholders can I leverage that have those shared experience, that can talk with confidence about that topic because they've lived and breathed it.
Yeah.
So I think there's, as I see it, there's three pieces. Sales, just the word, it's a dirty word to a lot of people. We've shot ourselves in the foot. We could, Hollywood hasn't helped by the countless fantastic sales films that they are, but they depict us as slimy, sleazy salespeople, right? And we can see, or we have seen, job titles being plucked out of thin air by probably initially Silicon Valley that just wanted anything but sales within that title. Sales reps became account executives, business development reps, account development reps. Then there's the seniority piece, which is, again, back to job title. A sales rep could be called a sales director because it adds that aura of seniority, when really that it's a glorified salesperson, And then finally, to come full circle, it's that maturity piece and understanding. It's likely I don't understand a lot of the things that are on your mind, a lot of the challenges that you are focusing on. I'm going to be curious about it to learn as much as possible from you. Where my expertise lies here, and this can help you with this. Is that a priority? And it's having the maturity, being able to remove the pride to the extent where you can just be really curious and be able to make some recommendations because this is what you live and breathe.
Yeah.
But I think, so I don't disagree with those points, but I think we're missing this social media piece. And, the challenge, the question is, what are some of the challenges that sales teams, organizations face when trying to engage C-level executives on social media? And I think one of the challenges that sales teams or companies are faced with is this idea that social selling is this different thing, this different activity that they should be thinking about, and they don't have the time to do it. When in fact, given the example that I gave earlier about the CRO, social selling should just be a natural extension of what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And questions like, when you're doing your account planning, how many connections do I have in this account already? What's my strategic network to influence pipeline within that account? Am I connected with everyone on that strategic network? What's the relationship strength like with those people? Have I made the effort to engage in anything that they've posted or commented on in the last 90 days?
Yeah. And also back to that, I was then going to go in a full swing, right, with the experience is where I've then matured. I've then built out my profile. I've then learned from that. And okay, well, if I don't look like I have the experiences or I can't provide value, I need to do a better job with my social media. I need to paint myself in a bit better picture. I need to build that personal brand. So as soon as someone comes to my profile, they go, oh, that's Gent Snabber. I know what he does. Oh, and he's an awesome person. Yeah, I wouldn't mind speaking to him. yeah, right. But it's that sort of thing, right? And it's like the one thing that I can honestly say, now, again, I've got to thank Jordan for it because he gave me the idea to create these raps, was when I'm at an event or I'm in London and I bumped into someone in Tesco's and I didn't even know who it was. And he said, oh, you're Gent Snabber, aren't you? I said, yeah. And he said, oh, we're connected on LinkedIn. I've seen your rap video. And I had people come up to me at the booth and say, oh, are you going to get on the stage and do us a little rap? It's that also, yeah, it does give me a little bit of a dopamine fix because, it's people have recognized it and, it's nice, but it's these sorts of things where you create conversations.
Yeah.
Right?
And then asking yourself, challenging yourself to improve? How can I now improve?
Yeah.
If I'm reaching out to the C-suite, is my profile written in a way that would appeal to executives?
Yeah.
Have I consciously thought about the wording that I'm using so that when an executive comes across my profile, I'm actually appealing to them?
Yeah. And how about this for a little tip? If you are targeting accounts based on industry, if you've written content about a specific industry, why is it not on your featured section of your profile when you're targeting those accounts within an industry? Boom. Let's say it's the pharmaceutical industry. Oh, you've got content on your profile about my industry. That's an interest. That's one little thing that you can do, right? And then the good thing about the featured, you're then targeting a different industry. You remove those, you add the one that's relevant. It's that sort of thing that helps, keeps you top of mind.
100%. Right. Any closing thoughts? Because I'm conscious of time.
I think we've covered a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
So I guess to summarize the activities that you can do, just to frame some of them nice and easily, think about the passive social presence, which is the way you're presented via your profile, the content, everything else that you do lives there. And then additionally, the active social behaviors that you can implement, commenting on content that is created by your prospects, by influencers that your prospects are engaging, influencers whose content, your prospects are engaging with. The research piece that is going to influence the messages that you do send.
Yeah.
We've got
what's the digital footprint of the C-suite in which you're trying to engage with?
Yeah, and
how can you leverage that?
Yeah, and don't just rely on LinkedIn as you did. You went out and found this interview wherever it may have been. Do they have other social media accounts that you can find? Yeah, there's a lot, but I think to try and frame it simply, passive social presence, your profile, and then active social behaviors. What are you doing to try and stimulate, to cut through the noise, to generate conversation?
Yeah, good stuff. All right, shall we draw a line under it there for today?
I think so.
Okay, any thoughts for a topic for next week, or should we take that one offline?
I think we can take it offline.
Yeah, there hasn't been a natural kind of flow into, oh well, let's address that topic next week. But let's knock our heads together after today's podcast. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Jensen. As always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you to our listeners. Until next time on Walking Digital Corridors, enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.